Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of World of Tanks with Slim Phoenix. Today I'm going to cover equipment and a way that you may be able to get some extra credits that you have sitting around that you didn't even potentially know about. So, so just a little background. Um, as you're playing World of Tanks, you may be relatively early on. You may only have like 5,000 battles in. You may have, a little more than that. Or you may even have, 30,000 plus in and have credits sitting around your garage that you don't even know about. So when you upgrade a tank, let's say the T29 here, for example, so I've got this fully researched, and you can see that I have to pay for these lower end items. But I have the higher end items researched and they're installed. So the way this happens, and you'll see I got the 90 millimeter gun here. This is primarily for I use it for clan wars if we or a tournament actually if we need to have because you can look at the penetration here for the premium round, which is the second set, is 243, and the DPM is 1895. But with this top 105, the penetration with the premium round is 245, and the DPM is 1684. So this 90 millimeter actually has more DPM than this 105. And if you're firing the premium rounds, the penetration is negligible. So naturally, this gun is more accurate because it has less dispersion. So I keep this one around, but the 76 is it has a higher DPM, but the penetration you can see is only 177. So I don't think that this gun is actually viable for tournaments or anything like that. So I keep the 90 and the 105 here, and whenever I upgrade a tank, say I get a new gun or a new set of tracks, what I'll do is go into the Armory here, and you can click on Modules, excuse me, and you go to your Depot tab, and this is everything that you've got in there. So things that you've upgraded to past and you don't need anymore, you can actually sell for the credits. And I know people who have done this and gotten millions of credits out of it because they've never gone in and cleaned it out. So for example, the suspension AT-15, if you right click on it, it'll tell you what vehicles it's compatible with. So we can see that these tracks are from the AT-15. So if we go into the garage and we go down to my AT-15 and we go in and check the research on it, you can see that I did upgrade the tracks. And you can see that there's no cost here for credits because it's still sitting in my depot. So what'll happen is, this exact same thing will happen. They'll upgrade to the next set of tracks or gun or whatever it may be, and you've got this just sitting here. You can see it's not on the vehicle, it's just in the depot. And since it's only compatible with the AT-15, there's no need for it once you have the next set. So what you can do is left click on it, and you can sell that, and you get the credits out of it. And you can go through and do that for everything in here, and you can set it to sort by certain things. So I only have it set to show right now compatibility with my vehicles. If you go to not compatible with my vehicles, you'll see that there's nothing in here, because I have a tendency to come in here and clean it out just to keep keep as many of the credits that I can at any given time. So but we can go in here, and here we right click on this, compatible with T29. That's that 90 millimeter gun I was showing you. So that's something that I want to keep. And then you can see here's the 105 which is on the T29 currently, which is why you can see the 1 here on vehicle. And it'll actually show you at the bottom here, you can see it says mounted on T29. So this part of your armory is actually pretty handy. Not only that, but I also have a tendency to, with consumables, if I get a whole bunch that I'm not going to use, like the coffee with cinnamon buns, I don't run on anything. Large first aid kits, as you can see here, I don't run either. Large repair kits, I usually only run on a handful of things. Depends on whether you're clan wars, but if you're just doing pub matches, it's up to the user whether they're going to use this stuff. But so you can see I use manual fire extinguishers and small first aid kits, so that's why I have these here, and I'm not really going to sell them unless I get ridiculously high. Like if I get 1,000 of these, I might sell them. But so this coffee with cinnamon buns, you can right click, you can see what it does, and it's restricted Swedish vehicles, but I don't need them, so I'm going to left click, and you can see the total here is 2, so I'm going to sell both of those. I'm going to do the same thing with the large first aid kits and the large repair kits. Now you notice it says 3, so the one that's on the vehicle will still be there. And if you display on vehicles, then you can see. So I'm running 22 automatic fire extinguishers, and I have a large repair kit. So that's another way you can get credits back. If you don't use something in here, there's no point in hanging on to it. So it's just something that you can clean out and you can get some credits back with. And you can go through, like if you have equipment sitting around, like I've got a set of binocs here and a camo net that are just sitting around. But I'm pretty sure that I'll use these binos eventually, so I'm not really going to sell them because they cost usually about twice as much as you're going to get back from them. So like these are 250,000 credits if I sell them. But if you go to the store and we go down to equipment and binocular telescope, 500,000 credits. So it's exactly half of what you pay for it. And there's a lot of people who debate, is equipment worth it for certain vehicles, what equipment to run. You can do a quick Google search with a specific vehicle and find out what a lot of people are running, but it all depends on how you're going to play the tank. Usually tier 7 and up, I try to put equipment on unless it's something that I'm just grinding and I'm not really entirely worried about better performance. So for example, if we go to this tier 7 ISU 122S, this I do have equipment on. And if you're not familiar with equipment, let's jump in here and we can kind of do a quick rundown. So this is in the armory. I'm in the store section and on equipment and compatible with all vehicles. So you can literally see every piece of equipment that's available. And certain tanks are, if you right click on it, it'll show you what it does. So the super heavy spall liner, 50% armor protection from ramming and explosions. This is particularly helpful with HE. Plus 50% protection crew from injuries. So if you've ever been hit by artillery in, we'll say a tier 10 heavy tank, and you don't have a spall liner on it, there's a good possibility that your crew and your various modules have a high tendency to get injured, and depending on whether it penetrates or not, it'll do a fair amount of damage. But if you've ever been in artillery and fired at someone who has a spall liner on it, you will know almost immediately because you'll hit them and it'll be a ridiculously small amount of damage. And it's usually pretty unlikely that you'll actually do damage to crew and other modules because of this. So there's vertical stabilizer, and one that goes in parallel with this, I think, is the gun lane drive right here. So what does the gun lane drive do? Well, it's plus 10% to aim speed. If we compare that with the vertical stabilizer, this is plus 20. Oh wait, that's the Mark II. Let's go up and look. Close that. Okay, so even with the Mark 1, it's plus 20% to accuracy during movement and turret rotation. So while you're moving, what it does is it actually makes your reticle smaller. So if you stop while you're moving, your reticle is already smaller than if you had a gun laying drive on it. Because a gun laying drive, where did it go? Here we go. Oop, wrong one. So plus 10% to aim speed. So the way the mechanics work on this is once you stop moving, you start aiming and your accuracy goes in. And you've seen it with just about every tank you drive. And so what this means is that it aims a little bit faster. So if you stop moving and you aim at a target and you hold still, it'll aim 10% faster with this. But the vertical stabilizer is 20% to accuracy during movement and turret rotation. So what that means is if you're driving, you're already 20% more accurate than someone that doesn't have a vertical stabilizer or a gun laying drive. Actually, if they have a gun laying drive, it's the same there. So you'll be 20% more accurate with the vertical stabilizer before you even stop and aim than you will if you have a gun laying drive on. So vertical stabilizer, in my opinion, trumps out the gun laying drive. Gun laying drive is helpful for tanks that are going to sit in the back and they're going to be covered in camo and they're ideally not going to be spotted or shot at. Or if you're going to stop and you have a few seconds to aim, but you want to reduce that time. So that's the difference between those two. Kind of what equipment you run depends on the tank. If you're running a medium, you're probably going to want coated optics on it. If you're going to be camping in the back in a tank destroyer, you're going to want a set of binoculars. Just about everything that I have, I put a rammer on. The rammer is not available for autoloaders. And then there's also some equipment that you won't see on very many tanks, but if you get the right tank, it will be an option. So here's coated optics. I usually throw those on the mediums, like I said. Torsion bars that'll increase your load capacity and suspension durability. So if you don't want to if you've got a bunch of credits sitting around and you don't want to have to bother with getting 20,000 XP so you can unlock your tracks, you can put a set of torsion bars on there and increase your load capacity. So toolbox helps with repair speed. This is good for like light tanks, things like that. So if you're running across the field and somebody hits you and you get tracked and then you repair, it's also good for slow vehicles too. Because if you're running across, you get tracked and you repair with your repair kit and you get tracked again, this toolbox, if you've got it on there, will increase your repair capability by 25%. So what that means is it's harder to keep you tracked and out in the open. So wet ammo rack, that obviously protects your tank from getting ammo racked, gives you a 50% more of an ammo rack durability. Let's see. And there's various tiers, like we've got the heavy spall liner versus the super heavy spall liner. Depending on the tank you're in, is going to determine what these options are, what you need. For instance, the large caliber tank gun rammer. If you have a smaller caliber tank, you may have a medium tank gun rammer instead. Vents and camo nets. Vents I usually put on just about everything that I don't need that third spot for, and it's entirely contextual. You can run some consumables with things, and ventilation will help with crew skills, and if you run coffee, it'll or chocolate, things like that. Camo net reduces your chance when the vehicle to be spotted when the vehicle's stationary. I usually run this on my artillery and the TDs that I'm planning on actually sitting in the back and actually sniping with. So whether these are cost effective, because when you mount them, I don't know if you noticed that, but it says complex equipment. And some equipment is complex and some is not. So complex equipment, once you mount it, in order to get it back off of the tank, you're going to have to spend 10 gold to get it back off. Otherwise, it'll be destroyed and it's gone. So if you put it on a tank that you're grinding and you're not planning on keeping it, then you're going to have to pay the 10 gold cost to move it off and put it back in your depot, and then obviously you can put it back on another tank. So that's kind of the reason why some of the lower tiers I don't really run the equipment on, and then some I do. Like this is a E25's preferential, so that'll help make extra credits. So that one I run binoculars on, medium caliber tank gun rimmer, because this thing's got an insane fire rate as it is. So this will actually increase that. And then I've got vents to add 10% to all crew skills. Or excuse me, 5%, sorry. Depending on how well you do. Let's say that you earn X amount of credits or XP per game, and you're only going to be playing a game for... Actually, let's look at an example here. So this Type T34, which I still have, you can see I've got 27 battles in it. So I played this tank a total of 27 battles, and you can see that I've actually got a medium caliber tank gun rammer on it. So for 27 battles, I played this. So if I had put other equipment on it, you know, and I ground it to the 5916 was the direction I chose to go with it. So whether or not it's actually worthwhile to put equipment on the lower tiers is kind of up to you. I usually don't put equipment on anything that's below tier 7 unless it's a premium tank or a preferential tank that I'm going to be playing a lot in just to grind credits and crew XP, things like that. But the equipment is very helpful. You'll notice a difference with it. It's probably not going to be a drastic difference, but you will notice that you may play a little better in the tank. You know, you may be able to get out of tough spots better, things like that. So I would say that it's definitely a benefit. It's just a matter of whether you want to spend the credits to get the equipment, put it on a tank, and whether you're willing to sacrifice those credits or spend the gold to take it off so you can switch it to the next tank, for example. The another thing to consider in that aspect is crew training. So let's see. Let's go to. Let's say the crown won't be here. Actually, I think I have. Yeah, let's just go to the S51. So you can see that this crew is at 100%, and they're working through their skills. And you can go into your personal file for each one, go to training, and on the current vehicle, if they're not at 100%, you can see here that you can spend 100 gold to get them to 100%. Or you can spend 10,000 credits. I think there's actually a sale, as you can see here. So right now there's a sale going on, but this is usually 20,000. I'm not 100% sure what the gold is. I would guess that it's 200 gold to get them to 100%, but that's just because this is half of what it usually is. Or you can just take them to 80% for free. So if you carry your crew over to the next tank in the line and you retrain them, you can go to the current vehicle and you can spend what's usually 20,000 credits to get them up to 90%. And I've had a debate before with myself where it's like, you know, for tier, you know, say you start a new line, so you've got, you know, a tier 1 or a tier 2, And a lot of people will use free XP to get through the first few. And then at that point, it's like, well, I'm probably not going to have to play a whole lot of games, especially with, daily doubles. Right now, you can see it's a triple. But, how many games am I actually going to be in this tank? Is it really worth, because you say you pay the 200 gold, if that's what it is, and you get them up to 100%. And then you play, we'll even call it 30 battles. So you get 30 battles in, and then you have move them to the next tank. So in doing that, you're going to have to do it again, because as soon as you switch to a different tank, they automatically lose some of their training, because obviously it's a new tank, so they have to learn, some of the ins and outs of it. So they'll drop down. If they're at 100% and you switch them over to the next tank, they'll be at 80% if you just do it for free. So I usually go with the 20,000 credits because I can run a premium tank and I can make 20,000 credits twice over in one match easily. So, and that's kind of something you have to consider. It's what I usually do is as I go down a line, let me pull it up here actually. So let's pull up the full tech tree. So let's say for instance, I've got the IS-4 here. Let's say we go down the line and we're going to the IS-4. So as I go through each one, what I do is I carry the crew that's in the tank forward as I research each one. And say, for instance, the T-150, you can see it's got a check mark here because I actually have it in the garage. So if you wanted the T-150 for Clan Wars or whatever, or you just like the tank, you may want to keep a hold of it. But because I think the best option is to carry your crew forward so that they can keep getting experience, and you'll ultimately have the best crew in your higher tier tanks, because that's crucial. So like if I was keeping the T-150, I would put a new crew in it and train them to the 90% mark. And obviously you're going to have to grind through and yada yada yada, but the other benefit is I do have the IS-6. So the way these premium tanks work is you can take this T-150 crew that's brand new, because we'll say we've got the STI. So you'll have your crew that you've started with in your STI, you'll put a new crew in your T-150, and what you can do is if you buy the IS-6 or a premium tank of that class, you can put the T-150 crew right in this IS-6 without having to retrain them and not lose any of the crew ability. So let's look at the IS-6 here a minute. So you can see here, this is the IS-6. It says here that this crew member is specialized and trained on the IS-4. So all these are from the IS-4. So what I'm doing is whenever I play the IS-6, it pulls this IS-4 crew in, and you get XP and training on this tank without having a penalty. So for example, if you are paying penalty, you'll see the red here on the left. Right. So here you can see that they don't have a specialization on the JP2. So this crew member cannot make full use of the skills and perks. Train this crew member in the personal file. So what this means is that even if you take it into the battle, these crew members are not going to get the XP from the battle. So you always want to make sure that these are not red if you're trying to increase your crew, because I could go into battle with this crew as is, but they're not going to be able to make use of any of these because they are not trained on the vehicle. So they kind of all work generally the same. So that's why. Let's go back to, yep, okay. So that's why you can it's good to have a premium vehicle for each class for each nation, because it has to be the same class and has to be from the same nation. Otherwise, it will not work. You can't take a Russian crew and put them in an American tank and without retraining them. I don't think you can even cross-train them from one nation to the other. So basically, you'll have to get a new crew member and train them from scratch, or pay the penalty, because even if let's say I didn't put a new crew in the T150, so I've got the IS-4 crew, and say we get into a clan war and they need the T150. So what I would have to do is either put a brand new crew in it, or take this IS-4 crew, put them back in the T150, retrain them, pay the penalty, which means they're not going to be at 100% unless I use that gold option that I mentioned earlier. So it's just a good idea to, if you're going to keep a tank, I think that's the best way versus, like if I kept the crew in the T150, then I got the KV3, and put a new crew in the KV3, it's going to be harder for me to start from scratch and move up these higher tiers than it would be if I keep the crew and the skills that they have and then just start from scratch on a specific vehicle. So I think that's the best option. Maybe you guys think different, but in my experience, that's been the best way to go. So as far as equipment goes, personally, I do it tier 7 and up, unless it's a preferential vehicle. So it kind of all depends on user preference, but I figured I'd kind of give you a lowdown of training. So you don't specifically, whenever you buy a premium vehicle, you do not need a crew trained for that vehicle. Like even my IS-2 here. So this has got the T150 crew in it that I was telling you about, because I play the IS-2 probably more than I play the IS-4, because the IS-2 is preferential. You get more credits and more crew XP. So that's that's something that I utilize. So if you can train your crew more efficiently, your tank will perform better because your crew is better. So that's just something to consider, and make sure you keep that kind of in line. And efficiency is key in this game. The more perks and skills and better trained that your crew is, the better you're going to do in your tank usually. So combine that with equipment and consumables, and you're going to be the best that tank can be, and then it all comes down to player capability. So that is my rundown on equipment and some credits, as well as some crew ideas and training strategies. So if you like the video, give it a share and a like, and I will see you next time. Happy tanking.